tell us, hey, I'm telling you what I know through what I've experienced. It is not something that is just generated by a third party. Yeah. And on this topic of sustainability, because that's part of what this conference is about. And as you may have heard, that I'm the program leader of our master's degree in sustainability. So I'm quite well versed in the SDGs. And specifically for this particular panel, one of the strands is on partnerships for the goal. So stakeholder relationships. Strong communications, trust, shared commitment are the key points of this particular SDG. But there was a member of the audience in the last presentation also asked, who do you build these relationships with? Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. It's a very interesting question. We all think that if we want to do something in a country, then we automatically go to government officials. They are the policymakers. They are the decision makers. However, I can tell you that couldn't be further from the truth. Because in the end, the stakeholders that you need to work with are the people who are going to be using whatever you're providing, that you're trying to provide for the community. But you might not necessarily know that unless you have that experience, that you know the country, you know well enough to know who's going to be using the services or the products we're going to provide, or anything that you're trying to do. It's the community. Maybe it is even the village elders who can decide in the end what you want to do within that community. So that is also a question that we need to ask, with whom to build these relationships. And again, TCKs can help because they have lived in those communities to know who have the biggest voices. Almost done, final remarks. So nothing like a Venn diagram, we don't like it, but it's so useful. At the core, I just want to say that, again, I'm introducing this whole idea of third culture kits to you, that they can connect the usage of generative AI, they can connect global communications, and they can also connect with the way that we want to be sustainable and how, in terms of connecting with people and communicating with people. Not many people know the concept of TCKs, yet we all probably know at least one person who is a TCK. Maybe you yourself are a TCK. And when implemented responsibly, sorry, typo there, they are a powerful agent for our increasingly inauthentic society. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just hold onto both microphones to make sure that my voice goes through. And I'd appreciate it if we could pull up the PowerPoint. Yeah. Oh, this one is okay. All right. So can everybody hear me all right? Okay, good. So are we lining up the PowerPoint here? Do you need some help? Okay, so the PowerPoint is coming slowly. Yeah. So basically, as our moderator, Dr. Helen said, I am an English language teacher at the Hong Kong Baptist University Language Center. And when I got my job, I was asked to help develop a global citizenship course, and where we teach students SDG goals. But the ultimate goal of this course is to improve students' English language proficiency, because we're a group of language teachers. So the students that we get on this course are students who scored below a 3 in the Hong Kong DSE exam. And we want to help them improve their English language proficiency so that they are prepared for their university study. Um, uh, after the semester. And because this is a global citizenship course, we also want to provide international exposure to help students get a hands-on experience to understand that we are all interconnected. Our action here in Hong Kong will affect our peers somewhere else in another location. The challenge for me as a facilitator of international dialogue for the past 5 years is that most COIL collaborations happen in a small class where you facilitate a dialogue, maybe between 20 students on your side, 30 students on the other side, or maybe you facilitate a three-dimensional COIL collaboration. But our course have to support 800 Hong Kong students, and we need to provide at least one international exposure to all 800 Hong Kong students. So how do you find a partner to match that? That, by the strict definition of COIL is mission impossible, but we shouldn't let the perfect stand in the way of the good. And ultimately, COIL promises as a low cost internationalization method that has the potential to reach a large group of students whose mobility level is relatively low. And yesterday we learned from Dr. Ye's presentation that students who benefit the most from international exposure and has the easiest time integrating into another culture are students who are linguistically capable. The language is an important factor. However, here we're working with students whose language ability is actually less compared to the average Hong Kong university students. So these are the two challenges that we face when we design this course. So what I will do in this presentation is to share with you some observational data I have collected from our pilot program and our first year launching this course. And based on these observations, we improved upon our facilitation and we got better results in the second year. So I can share with you some lessons learned from that. So may I ask you to help me turn to the page, Helen? Yeah, thank you. So basically for our pilot program, we had 42 students joining from Hong Kong and 48 students from Indonesia and 22 students from the Philippines. And we had 4 teachers to help facilitate the three-way dialogue from 3 different universities and between 110 kids. We utilize both synchronous and asynchronous communication tools. Can we move on? Actually, I embedded a video here. I'm not sure whether you can watch it or hear it. So basically, we ask students to upload videos of themselves. Let me put this on. Yeah. We invited students to upload videos of themselves on Flip so that they can exchange video dialogues with each other through that platform, which now unfortunately has shifted to Microsoft. You can no longer use it, but it was a brilliant platform while we had it. And we also facilitated synchronous exchange on Zoom where students can meet each other. The whole program lasted a total of 5 weeks. And Okay, the video did not play, but that's all right. Let me move back a little bit. The pilot program lasted a total of 5 weeks, and we had flying results. As many of you know, when you facilitate a virtual exchange program, one of the challenges you face is high attrition level. So program completion rate typically would be below 65%, but we achieved above 85% on our pilot program. So I got very encouraged, and I advertised our course on Call You Connect, which is a website that does the matchmaking. If you're in this conference, you likely have shared your information on our Padlet. So Call You Connect is a website hosted by John Rubin, who facilitates and supports COIL practices in America. So after I advertised this course, I got a response from all over the world. So I was able to recruit altogether 270 international students to join our program. And they are from USA, Mexico, the Philippines, Indonesia, Colombia, Brazil, so we have a very diverse mix of students joining our courses. So we again use our pilot format. We organized altogether 4 Zoom conversations, which we call global dialogues. And we also facilitate weekly video exchange over the 14 weeks for students to talk about relevant sustainability related issues. So students are expected to complete altogether 10 hours of exchange throughout the semester, both synchronous and asynchronously. So I like to share with you data I collected from one of my sections in order to maximize the cultural diversity and therefore maximize the students' interest and motivation. I basically invited the 21 students from Indonesia, 11 students from the Philippines, 6 from Mexico, 12 from Colombia, and 13 from USA to all join my 20 students from Hong Kong to give them maximum international exposure. And at first, this approach succeeded. It garnered a lot of attention. Everybody was watching each other's videos. So there's a lot of enthusiasm and fascination. But you can see this dramatic drop when we hit the 3rd week. Yeah, this enthusiasm and curiosity about other cultures dropped severely in the 3rd week. Remember, our pilot was only 5 weeks long. We were able to maintain that interest, but this is a full semester long, 14-week exchange. We discovered that the enthusiasm did not last. And if you look at our data collected from our global dialogues, you see the same pattern. The first one, we got altogether 150 participants, then the number drops, throughout the semester. Then what happened here? We need to understand why students positive regard to each other and that curiosity dropped so dramatically. And we collected pre and post course survey from our students, and we got basically students from Hong Kong and our international participants to respond. If you look at our average, like pre and post mean, you can see a slight improvement, but if you look at the t-value, these improvements are not significantly, statistically significant. So why is that? Then if you look at from my same class, right, I matched up the students' pre-course reflection about their global citizenship and post-course reflection about what it means to be a global citizen. Again, you see, before the course, everybody was enthusiastic and positive, but after the course, they cooled down, they cooled off. So what happened here? I would argue what happened was when you are facilitating a very culturally diverse group, your students' expectation are so diverse, it is impossible to coordinate what we call cyber pragmatics. Yeah, different students from different cultures have different expectations. The first challenge, time zone. When you organize your global dialogues in Asia, it happens 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Those 2 hours, right? That's why the majority of our students were sleepy. Second, when we look at participation, different groups of students perceive passivity differently. Like for Hong Kong students, what really annoys them is when they send a message, whether this is an email or a short message through WhatsApp, if they don't get a response right away, they feel like my international interlocutor is not interested. They're leaving me hanging. But if you look at what bothers the international students the most, do we have a guess, since we're all COIL practitioners here, what might bother them the most? Yeah, yeah, exactly, in synchronous meetings, when our students remain silent, right? That's perceived as a sign of lack of interest and disengagement. And that's perceived by international students as very passive. Another language. Remember, our students are students who struggle with English. Yeah, that is why only international participants remarked Hong Kong students, accents. They say we have trouble understanding the Hong Kong students. We didn't hear the same thing from Hong Kong students. What does that mean? They're international interlocutors are higher level of proficiency. A third is I don't know why this is not moving forward, but as you have heard from some of our international colleagues, the default mode in synchronous Zoom meet, everybody have their cameras on. Yeah, but can this be done between 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. in Hong Kong? Our students are in their homes. Do they want to turn on their cameras? Maybe not, because they're sharing a room with their TV show in the next room, right? So, but when their camera and microphone is off, which is other time. So what do we do? Paired my students for their intercultural encounter. What I did was I focused on what tasks need to be done and how they should use these technical platforms. What I ignored was introduce differing cyber pragmatics and help students understand silence does not mean lack of interest. It is a show of respect. It may, I understand you and I am interested. I just don't know how to express myself. Or intercultural contact. So I don't know to provide cultural orientation, train up a group of facilitators to help guide those synchronous dialogues. Then your result will be much.
Thank you, Dr. Zhang's.
Zhang's connection was off. Sorry, the Wi-Fi was unstable. That's why it late.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Zhang, for the inspiring presentation. Okay, so now may we invite Ms. Seema Shaikh from the Pradina Bodhani High School, India, to give her topic. So, Ms. Seema Shaikh, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting and happy to be here. Thanks to the university for giving our school an opportunity to present what we feel has really led to bring about a change in the approach and the perspectives of the student. Our topic, Anjum, my co-colleague and my co-facilitator is here. My colleague Anjum Panna also will be sharing with me, and I will request Anjum to share the screen of the first slide, which talks about our theme and our topic. Anjum, can we get access to share the screen to Anjum Panna specifically? The first slide, please, Anju. Yeah. Thank you so much. So our theme is global citizenship in an interconnected world, because I feel that as students, this is the right time when we can connect them to it. Our topic of research is cultivating mindful and active global citizens to build a just and inclusive world through intentional, responsible actions. And I think that we have been successful to a great extent while conducting this research. The objective behind this that we had in mind was to develop the 21st century skills amongst the students who are of the age group 8 to 15, to create and build awareness amongst the students of their role as change makers for a better world. And thirdly, to instill in them the ability to be compassionate, empathetic, and inclusive, which are the essence of a global society. Through our school's endeavors, we try to see that though our children are first generation learners, we take them towards becoming global citizens. The type of research that we took forward was a qualitative research. The hypothesis that we had in mind was a null hypothesis that global citizenship can be promoted and inculcated through intentional and responsible actions. And that is why myriad activities were planned to take ahead in collaboration with the teachers, the students, and the community. Keeping all the three in mind, we have designed the activities. The rationale that we have in mind was that in this increasingly interconnected and interdependent world, there is a growing need to provide students across the globe the awareness of their role as change makers. And this, I think, that we were successful to a great extent, because we believe that such students have not only a deepening of self-awareness and self-management, but are also able to gauge diverse perspectives and are wise decision makers. And this we observed at various steps. This research provided insight to educators to bring to the forefront the fact that conscious, meticulous, and engaging efforts lead to empowering the students. And this, my colleague Anshum will very shortly show it to you, how these actions have made it possible to create individuals who are mindful and thoughtful of the domino effect of their reckless actions and the snowball effect of their thoughtful steps. So I think this was something that has contributed towards their tiny baby steps towards creating a just, equitable, and a useful community. Our efforts are directed towards this, and we have taken different activities. So when I talk about what have they done? We also did a lot of research work where literature was studied, and we explored the Indian literature as well as the literature which has been forwarded and which has come through us through various foreign authors. The target group were students from class 3 to class 8, and the number of students were around 450. We are still on page 1. Yes, I know we will be moving ahead. My colleague will be sharing. I'm just talking about this background that we thought of, the rationale that we thought of, how we need to take it ahead. And the findings and implications are something which we will be looking at. We found that our decisions were very impactful. Understanding of interdependence and interconnected was impacted through this critical thinking, communication, collaboration, decision making, creativity, and imagination. All these things develop through the myriad activities, which now Anjum Panna will take ahead. So over to Anjum Panna to take ahead the slides. Thanks to Dr. Helen for understanding that we were just giving you the background right now. And now the slide sharing will happen. We just wanted to tell you as to what was a rationale behind it, what was the literature that we went through, and what was the implication and the findings that we. So over to Anjum Panna now. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. So, just some time back, one of our co-presenters were talking about whom do we build the relationship with? And these are exactly our stakeholders, the school, the parents, and the community. When all these three people form a strong tripod, that is when the ball gets rolling. So our little efforts on, how to make this experience of coming to school delightful, where the child is not only acquiring knowledge, but also building the perfect kind of attitude and acquiring and developing the right kind of skills. So here is the how. So we try to include global citizenship education because we know that citizenship education, we understood it empowers learners of all ages to assume active roles both locally and globally in building more peaceful, tolerant, inclusive, and sustainable societies. This is how the UNESCO defines it. Talking about what were the key areas, the key areas that we focused on, as Seema ma'am also mentioned it, were human rights, health, diversity, and environmental sustainability. Diversity played a very, very key role in selecting it as one of our core values. Because in India, we are dealing with heterogeneous classrooms. And when we say heterogeneous, we are not only talking in terms of demographics, only their age or the kind of socioeconomic background that they come from, but also the psychographics, the kind of core beliefs and the core value system that our students come from is so different from one another that a teacher, when she addresses this team of 45 children in class, she has to be so sensitive because we have got various kind of learners in class, and our aim is to help every single child grow in the classroom. What are the domains of global citizenship? We focused on socio-emotional, cognitive, and behavioral. So something that every school around the world already has. We also had that. Something like lesson plans, assignments, evaluations, and stakeholders. We also had the same kind of things. But what are the things that we used as a wand? We used SDGs, the cell that is socio-emotional learning, our film curriculum, our skill sets, and collaborations. These were the things that we turned into wands to create a classroom which really helps open the windows to the world for our little learners. Now coming to one major aspect, why films? Why did we embed these film curriculum? So one is firstly, it has accessibility and we can be flexible with that. When we are showing films, all the children are finding it so relevant. They are all suddenly on this one platform where they understand this language of media. It can really amplify the kind of skills that we are planning to embed in the classroom. The reach of the media is wide. It also has the power to engage and captivate the audience. This leads to a deeper understanding and connection with the cause. Because suddenly there is this unspoken language inside the class itself, So I would just like to cite one little example here. We were watching a film from India, which is curated by APCEIU UNESCO, and the name is Dignity with Flowers, wherein the women from the slum areas are empowered and they are helped to make garlands out of the essence sticks out of the wasted flowers. The woman in the film said that after I have been employed, rich people have started coming to my place. And when she was asked further, so tell me, what is the biggest joy that you are getting while you are working with us? The woman said, I am 50 years old, and this is the first time anyone has offered me a stool to sit. Now imagine an example like this is been witnessed by 50 children in the class. What kind of empathy and compassion they are developing? Because coming to one of our core values that we are working towards, human rights, a person, when he is able and capable of sensing compassion and being compassionate towards others, only then we can create peaceful and just classrooms. Why SDGs? People ask us that you can show films that are available on YouTube. Why do you have to use the ones curated by UNESCO and all these international films? Well, because this allow us to get closer to the 2030 agenda. Sometimes our students get very pessimistic about it, saying that, oh, ma'am, this is not going to be possible. It's only 5 years from now. How are we going to do it? And then the answer is, look at these films. We are doing it little by every person understanding their individual contributions rather than telling, oh, it's not my job, I'll leave it to the authorities. No, it is every person's job. So why SDGs? Because it allows you to actively contribute. It calls for active involvement and enables partnership. One of our co-presenters were talking about partnership, one of the strongest goals. SDG ensures inclusive development that can help reduce this disparity and inequality. And this enables us to address urgent challenges faced by the world. Now, what is the process that we followed? For every film that we showcased, there was a pre-activity. The pre-activity could be something as easy as, what do you think are your rights and privileges? This is a pre-activity that we did when our students were watching a film across the tracks. When it was all about, understanding that are there toilets available for everybody, and the kid said, "Oh yes, I have a toilet." But when they watched the film, they realized, "Oh my God, not everybody has a toilet. Some people have to cross the train tracks just to do this normal daily chore." And that is the time they realize that me having a bathroom in my house is a privilege and not a right on. So you can just read through some wonderful films that we could show. This was the way how we conducted these sessions, in our auditorium, in the classrooms, on the screen. We had all our children watching the movies together. Now, because of these movies came out many brainstormed ideas, and these were our impact stories. We went to restaurants, we created awareness, we innovated by incepting a SEL kit in our school. There were community outreach programs. We started going on large scale with our art fest. There were many other activities. Our children started creating green calendars just to see how does their month look like with all the green initiatives. They started reusing and reinventing the recipes and using the leftovers from the previous day. We started green math. They started research activities. These are some community outreach programs. We started going big with the use of millets because our children were able to establish through films that there is a direct connection between the use of millets and peace. Because if we as urbanites, if we create a demand for millets, somebody somewhere in the rural areas of India are getting employment and thus having a peaceful life. So they were able to establish this connection. These were some, again, community outreach programs, and we really started going very heavy with collaborations where they are able to meet and converse with people who think, live, and feel and love differently themselves. And these were schools from around the world, so that, just one little endeavor to open the classrooms to the world out there. But doing all this, what did it help us in? Our children are now more self-aware, they are more self-managed. There's a habit inculcated in them to pause, reflect, and then act. They are not impulsive anymore. They're taking that one moment of pause just to reiterate that whether I'm wrong or right. The classrooms are more congenial. Now they have learned to think and question. They are not going blindly into anything. They have understood their privileges. There is an increased commitment. We are able to create safe environment and safe classroom. And lastly, there is a retained motivation. And lastly, this is what we are slowly achieving. Now we are achieving the IDGs, the inner development goals in the real sense, where there is being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting. So I think that with this, we are really able to allow our children to transfer their knowledge from their classrooms to the corridors, and finally, where knowledge really belongs to the communities. And that is our real success story, when our students' learnings travels from classrooms to corridors. And this was a success story. And we proudly call ourselves as a community school because it is open for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Seema and team, for the inspiring presentation. We are now warmly welcomed Dr. Kara Gos, St. Mary's University, Philippines. So it is your time. Hi, Dr. Kara Gosirari. Are you here? So it may be due to the time conflicts, maybe due to power. So I would like to. So thank you for all the speakers. The insight. And then I think that we can still to have to entertain some of the questions in the Q&A sections. So please feel free to share your questions. If you would like to ask your questions directly, you can raise your virtual hands by clicking the hand icon. You can ask the questions. Oh. Okay, so because the last speakers maybe have other engagements, so may I, and then we go to the sections. So we will now open the floor for the your questions. Like to ask, you can raise up your hands, and then we will direct to the speakers. And then, or Emma, questions. Okay, you have an actual hand. So to
and also highlighting their vital role in our interconnected world. But the problem is not everybody can be born as a third cultural kid, right? So you don't exactly choose the cultures you're born into and the number of cultures you get exposure to. So I was wondering whether there's such a concept as a third culture person, and whether people can be trained towards that kind of cultural linguistic fluidity that you mentioned that will really help us in this interconnected world. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm very aware that not everybody gets that opportunity to be a third culture kid where the parents go all over the world to work. Or in fact, the first concept created was back in the 50s, as I've said. It was through the American, what we call army brats. So these were the children of soldiers or army officers who have been seconded abroad, and then they move around a lot. And then we also had the missionaries, and they also moved around a lot. I showed a list of all the positive traits, and those are the things that we really can learn from third culture kids. So the adaptability, we don't adjust, we adapt. There's a big difference between adjusting, meaning that you end up being the same as everybody else, whereas adapting is that you're just there at that time doing what other people are doing, and once you're gone, you go back to a different self. So understanding who you are as a person, understanding yourself is very, very important to third culture kids. And that is one quality that I think we all can learn from. And the second, of course, is to, just expose yourself to and have an open mind. Because, I think one of the things that we all have a common understanding of as a third culture kid is that we're not the best, that the whole world is so big that one culture is not superior to another, and that we need to have that open mind, that modesty to understand and to accept that people are really literally born equal, and we can learn so much. I mean, I think the thing that third culture kids do really well is that we pick the positive sides of each culture, and then we formulate our own culture and say, this is what I like about each culture, and I think this is what I would really like to give back to the world. And so that adaptability, the open-mindedness, and the flexibility is something that we can all learn from and use in, if we're really trying to be true global citizens. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. So you're saying global citizens or third culture person can be trained, right? So actually here in Hong Kong, we are in a transcultural space. In fact, a lot of children raised in Hong Kong, if they're ethnically not Chinese, they actually don't get to learn Cantonese culture. Yeah. That's why I was suggesting that when we refer to cultural linguistic adaptability, it has a lot to do with the individual choice, with their heritage language, and also with the language of the culture that they reside in. So many people who were born and raised in Hong Kong actually cannot speak Cantonese, right? So then are they still third culture kids?
I think we would be narrowing ourselves a little bit too much to think that culture is restricted to just language, because it isn't. I think it's about traditions, it's about being here. I mean, they would be exposed to the Chinese New Year, for example, or the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival. They'd be exposed to the Dragon Boat, or even Christmas here is a holiday, which, is a little bit different, if you like, given that this is not a Christian university. But they do celebrate all these different festivals. And of course, you get culture also through the food that you eat. And you're very exposed to so many different cuisines here in Hong Kong. And you're exposed to, and the education system as well, even if it is, whether it's government funded, whether it's, private education, you are somewhat influenced by the culture that is instilled in Hong Kong, where everything is so pressurized. All the children here are expected to perform. Whereas I remember I finished primary school here, went to the UK, and then I was like, oh, I don't have to do homework. Is that real? So I was like, oh, so you mean I can just spend my evening playing on the piano? That's like a really good deal for me, you know? Whereas I understand that children here are expected to learn. I learned to write my Chinese name by the time I was 3 years old, and it is not an easy name. So then that was something that as I grew up and had my own child, I did not want to expose my daughter to that. So her primary years until, and even until now, I don't put any pressure on her. But she herself has decided that she wanted to be a perfectionist, you know, very competitive. So she puts her own pressure on. But this is what I mean by, you know, this interstitial culture, this whole experience, and drawing out the positive sides of different cultures and using it in our own life. It's like, you know, if I were just exposed to the Chinese culture or the education system here in Hong Kong, I would be a helicopter mum hovering over my daughter and say, have you studied? Why have you only got an A and not an A plus, you know, that kind of attitude. Whereas because I was exposed to a different type of education, that I decided that that wasn't, you know, the way that children are raised here isn't the best method, at least not for me. And I so much prefer the European westernized, you know, play as you go time learning environment.
Or if you were raised in that environment, maybe you won't have all 6 languages. Yeah.
Well, no, absolutely not. No, I mean, again, you know, I really appreciate that this is not an opportunity that everybody can have. But if you look around you, you know, that's all I'm saying is that we can learn from them, that it is something that you can actually learn. And it's not something that you must be exposed to. And these are traits that we could also all use anyhow, you know, this whole adaptability and flexibility, open-mindedness. You know, these are just things that I really feel that we all should possess. Yeah.
I'm sure every Hong Kong mom and dad will be proud that you spend your evening playing on the piano. Yeah. And if that's your form of play, that you know, I'm sure Hong Kong moms and dads here would encourage you to play as much as you like. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay.
I will do not long. Okay, so talking about responding to your ideas, I just think about Louisa is talking about third cultural kids being adaptable to different culture, blending easily. So of course we are VE, we talk about cross-cultural thing, but it also prompts me to think about nowadays phenomenon about the youth. For example, within Hong Kong, and I'm sure within its own country, kids and youth nowadays have so much activity, so much talent. So they are busy engaging in different activity, and they are open. And sometimes we cannot grasp them or find some moment to talk to them, but sometimes they also enjoy talking with us. So what I love is it's not, I think it is the openness, they being open to new experiences. So maybe this is similar to what you mentioned. They are quickly adapt to different culture.
Yeah, I think, you know, with the advent of, you know, technology and especially with generative AI, they are definitely exposed to all of these different experiences, and there's no doubt about that. The only difference is, I would say, is that we're youth these days, and I am generalizing a little bit, so excuse me. My observation is that they are quite easily influenced by the media. And it is up to us to really teach them to be critical about what they see, what they hear, and to reflect on the things that they hear and see, and not just be blindly led by what is told to them. And as for being open-minded, you know, it's one thing to be open-minded to the exposure of different things. It's another to be open-minded to be accepting of these different experiences. And that's what I'm talking about, is that this acceptance, because otherwise we will still end up just looking at it from the outside and subscribing to stereotypes. through the exposures that they get from media. So
do you think the role of cultivating them to think critically?
oh, absolutely, absolutely, yes. It's just this whole idea of information overload. I think they are exposed to so much information that they no longer, well, that's what I think anyway. Again, no offense to young people, but I think they're so overloaded with information that they no longer are able to critically reflect on what they're exposed to and how to think for themselves.
So we nurture them to find their authentic self
Oh, absolutely.
out of all the different talent.
Absolutely. That's why I said, a few minutes ago that an understanding of who you are and an understanding of self through an exposure of different cultures is so important. And yeah, okay. Do we necessarily all need to have this existential authenticity? Maybe not, but a degree to it, having some form of internal references because you know who you are as a person, as a self, I think is very important to be a global citizen.
I think they do enjoy the process of mindfulness and reflection. And when I bring my students to some mindful leadership trip to think, internalize themselves, their role, they think that, oh, that's I have not thought about that.
No. But I think but as Dr. Zhang said earlier, facilitators are so important as well. And obviously you sound like a very good facilitator, but going back to your point about how we can facilitate our COIL project, I did one just this last semester. I was the one who kept saying, okay, you're doing this. These are Dutch students. I said, you're doing this COIL project with Hong Kong students. And I can tell you the characteristics of a Hong Kong student. They're quiet, they're reserved. You've got to be the ones who are talking. And so they took that to heart. And Anna told me that she and her students enjoy the COIL project with my students the most because my students were the most active. They really drew questions out of them. They were active, they were talking, they were everything. So I think, as a facilitator, really it's up to you how you want to guide your students to provide them the opportunity to self-reflect. And yeah, I'm sure they enjoy it because maybe it is the only opportunity that they've ever had that somebody tells them, hey, you should reflect on this yourself. You should think for yourself and not being told how to think. So yeah, I always think that self-reflection is really important. So giving them the opportunities is fantastic.
So I think time is up, and then we have our last panel session. So shall we conclude our session?
I think it was one
Doctor, yes, I have a question.
Yeah,
One last question.
Question, but thank you so much. And I really love these presentations. It's actually not a question, but I just want to have a comment for Dr. Helen's presentation. I really love the closing mark, the last page on your PowerPoint, that how does the generative AI would help with sustainability and global communication in this increasingly inauthentic society. I really love this term because nowadays many people were talking about how can we keep authenticity in this interconnected world, but a very true thing is that for those cultural travelers who travel across cultures, especially those third cultural kids, where they who share different cultures, but they may not feel a complete ownership of one authentic culture. And how do they position themselves in this kind of inauthentic world? So I really love this one. And so thank you so much for raising my attention on this issue. And I have a question for Dr. Zhang. And I love your presentation about as a language teacher, and you designed a course and helped the students to engage in a more in cultural and language exchange. And I noticed that you said since third week and students lost some of their enthusiasm. And I wonder, as a course leader how did you react to this? And how did you feel about this? And what happened since third 3 until the end of the course? Thank you.
Wow, that's a difficult question because it's like watching your wheel drop, right? The number of wheel counts drop, right, significantly on flip. Um, from the third week onwards. So basically, I interviewed the students in class, and also, as you can see from the data we collected, we organized the group interviews to gain insights to try to understand what happened. And what happened was for a short course, if you provide 2 platforms, synchronous and asynchronous, as an exchange, you can maintain that interest relatively well. But for a long course, students finding publishing 1 video exchange per week pretty tedious, and they wanted private channels, informal channels, with their teachers' eyes absent from those channels where they can develop authentic relationships. So basically, but like as a teacher, I also need to consider privacy issues. So I would say, okay, if you're interested in using WhatsApp or whatever, why don't you approach your international partner privately, and you guys can have as much conversation with yourself. So in the end, we had a lot of COIL enthusiasts from the students who published twice the amount of number of videos required by the course, because they had a positive experience with their international partner. But we also have students who lost the interest in publishing videos because their partners are not engaging. So we had a very diverse outcome from that particular course. But yeah, opening up diverse channels and having constant conversations with the students to address that issue as it's happening, create flexibility as well within the course to allow students to engage in diverse ways would be the way we deal with it. Thank you for your question. Yeah, that's it. I'll hand it back to Helen.
Thank you. So thank you, for the presentations and also your sharings. So it is the end of the sessions. So our next sessions will be started at 4:30. Yeah.
5 minutes ago.
Okay, so see you soon. Bye.
But why don't you step out and have a coffee?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. It was really good. Everyone is good, including the ones from India. Very good.
Thank you so much for your hard work.